Questions. Today, we're going to focus on the power of questions. And most serious mistakes are not often the result of wrong answers. The truly dangerous thing is asking the wrong questions. That's a quote by Peter Drucker, one of the leading minds in leadership and one of my favorite authors. And Andre, you are a master of questions. I remember the first time you and I did a workshop together in Sydney, shortly after I'd started working with you. And I remember you getting up and talking about this idea of powerful, in-depth questions. I'd been around questions most of my career and really understood the importance of powerful, impactful questions, but just the way you were able to bring it to life and to help really understand that the quality of an answer is equated to the quality of the question, or sometimes the questions, and being willing to ask really good questions and to listen and wait for the answer. So I would love if you could share our model around questions and how important they are and what a transformational part they are of really good conversations.
Hey, thank you, Darren. Yes, I remember those early fun days of us working together, looking at these things. Now, the interesting thing about questions, I would say, of all of the skills that I have learned as a professional, as a leader, as a consultant, as a partner, as a father, as a friend, is being very intentional and conscious about asking great questions, right? And I think it lends itself to the third part of our conversational series that we introduced you to. We started off by looking at narcissistic conversations. Then we looked at assumptions in the last episode and the power of assumptions. So this is a beautiful third leg of the stool, so to speak. And yeah, I'm going to share a model with you to elevate conversations with people. I often think about the questions that I get asked. I'm finding right now is people don't ask questions. And maybe the reason they don't ask questions is they don't quite know how to ask good questions. I mean, think about the questions being the open and closed questions. The questions that start with did you, will you, should you, can you, all kind of closed yes or no answers. And then we think of the open questions, which is the 5 W's and the H, the what, where, who, when, where, and of course the how. And they tend to be a little bit more open, but we want to elevate our conversations to the next level. And when we talk about elevating, these are questions that make the other person think. And I think it's really important to also say, it's not interrogation. We're not here to put people on the spotlight and go, okay, here you are, answer these questions for me. And it's not that at all. It all starts with this generosity of spirit, this curiosity that we bring into a relationship, right? And that's the context that we do it. There's 4 types of questions, Darren.
Okay. Lay them on me.
Okay. Well, the first type, so if you think about it as a continuum, the first type of question is when you're having a conversation with someone is looking back. These are questions that ask someone to maybe think about what might have happened in the past. Could be as a team leader talking to a team member. You might ask the questions, what's worked in the past that you would like to continue? And so the person's got to sit back and think about what's worked in the past. And it's a question that does kind of make them think. So that's the first type of question. The second type of question is looking at the present. So in our time continuum, if you like, looking at the past. The second time, looking at the present. And looking at the present is really focusing on what's happening in the here and now. So it could be something like, what are 2 or 3 of the biggest challenges you're facing right now in your current role or in the project? Right? So that, again, is a question that really makes them think. And of course, you'll see that I use what are the 2 or 3 things?
Yes.
Yeah, and I think there's a reason for me asking the 3 things, because sometimes in this world we live in, you say, what's the challenge you have? People will go for the first thing that comes to mind. It just is. We all tend to be a little bit, lazy in our thinking. So we'll give the first answer that comes to mind. When you ask people for 2 or 3 things, they've got to go below the surface and think of the second and third thing. And here's the amazing thing, Darren, I found. When I'm working with clients or I'm working with team members, and I ask, okay, what are the 3 biggest challenges happening right now? And they go, oh yeah, lack of time. I'm having a problem with this relationship. when you ask them to say which one is the most challenging or most difficult for you, it's never the first one they think of.
Absolutely.
So that's the second type of question, is looking at the present. And the third one is looking ahead, of course. So it could be a question like, is if you could have a fantastic relationship with me as a team leader, what will be the 2 or 3 things that might define that relationship? So that's kind of looking into the future, into the ideal. So that's the third type of question, right? And the fourth type of question is really expressing emotions. One of the things we tend not to do is to keep our emotions to ourselves, but giving people permission to express how they're feeling. So it could be if you could tell a close friend what it feels like to be in this team right now, what 2 or 3 emotions would you choose? Right? So I think that's our questioning model, the think questioning model. We talk about it as think questions because it makes the other person think. It is part of our leadership accelerator program. So if you wanted to take a deeper dive into it, our leadership accelerator program has a complete module on questioning. And of course, the other side of it, which is listening. You got to listen for the answers. So the currency of conversations, if you like, or one of the chips that you would use in great conversations is asking great questions. Of course, the other side is listening. What's your thoughts, Dan?
Absolutely. I think that's it's such a powerful tool. And I think the think model, exactly it is what you're driving for, is to get people to think. You gave the example of, the first initial response is almost like the subconscious response, right? How was your weekend? Oh, it was great. What did you get up to? Oh, this, you drop down a couple of questions. Now you're actually hearing about their weekend, right? Well, the 2 or 3 things, it gives you that opportunity to draw a couple of things out, asking follow-up questions to dive down a little bit deeper. Combining what, the past, present, and the future, the emotion into with rapport, with curiosity. So it's not an interrogation, but into a overall conversation or into a team meeting helps you to really drop down and get some much deeper and additional insights than you would other than just asking the one surface level question. And part of that then is you got to be willing to listen, and you have to be willing to allow time for them to think. People process information, especially if you've asked them a question that they really need to think about. You need to give them the moment or two to reflect, decide how they're going to answer, and then answer.
Yeah, I love that space because often we just want to fill in the silences, right?
Yeah.
And this is exactly when you don't, because when people are thinking, they're engaged. It's not that they're bored or they're switched off. And you just got to give them that space, that freedom to allow them to think through the question you've asked. And the value that comes out of it is often a much deeper conversation. And
it gets into all kinds of things, but that deeper conversation, that deeper understanding, and ultimately deeper alignment. And would encourage all of you to craft some questions, really look out, really pay attention in podcasts. Listening to great podcast interviewers is a great way to hear someone asking really good questions and creating that space. So lots of ways to learn them, including our Leadership Accelerator, which the links are below.
Awesome, Darren. Thanks very much. We'll see you in our 4th episode on Conversations coming up next week.
Looking forward to it. Thanks, Andre.